Well, hello everyone. Welcome along to another Car Design News webinar. I'm Freddie Holmes, the Deputy Editor here at CDN, and today we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence in car design and how you can integrate that into your workflow. Our expert today is Timo Gmeiner, who is AI Product Manager at Autodesk, who will be running us through probably the biggest questions we have about the topic, namely how we should think about AI, what we can use it for, and what's coming up in the future. Now, before I hand over to Timo, do prepare your questions as we will be opening up to audience questions later on. If you'd like to ask a question, please just type it into the Q&A box on your screen and we'll get to those a little bit later. With that, I will pass over to Timo now, who will get us started. Timo, the floor is yours.
Hello. Hello, everyone. My name's Timo. I'm a product manager at Autodesk. I'm focused on building AI-enabled tools at the company. Today, we're going to talk about a lot of things. Just to give you a little set and setting. Who am I? I'll give you an overview of themes to listen for, a little bit of a spoiler alert. We're going to talk about four main themes. Number one, intelligent, not smart. So we're going to talk about what is AI really. We're going to talk about the edges of the map, right? What's changing in AI, key areas of rapid change in an AI that will affect design workflows. We're going to talk about how to navigate what's coming. So we call that stay human. So what are some simple ideas that you can focus on to stay ahead of the curve? And then what's next, right? What are some actionable steps you can take? How can you continue with us at Autodesk? A couple of key ideas to listen for, a little bit of a spoiler. For three personas I've been talking to a lot in the last year. For designers, your context is gold, right? The future of your success depends on how well you can curate, how well you can capture and communicate your design context to a about that. For managers, you need to manage the attention to the task, manage attention to the task and the executor rather, right? You need to focus on rebalancing human and machine intention. And for IT leadership, you hold the key to new IP, right? AI models are a compression of years of creative work in your companies. They're like creativity concentrate. Okay, so what to remember, just a safe harbor statement here. I'm going to talk a lot about some forward-looking things at Autodesk. Also, I'm going to be sharing some third-party information. Everything in this presentation is really just for education. What to forget, your worries. Fear is the mind killer. I think we're at the edge of a new renaissance in product engineering. So this is the time to embrace change and accelerate that human progress. What else to forget? Your limitations, right? Embrace an attitude of open exploration. The rate of change in AI is definitely overwhelming. And I assure you, even for people like me who are focused on it every day and researchers building in the space, every week the game seems to change. So my advice to you is embrace an attitude of open exploration. And why do that? I mean, this is a quote from Alvin Toffler. The literate people in the future are people who can't change, who are unflexible to learn and relearn and unlearn. So this is all about embracing a learning practice. That's why you're all here, I assume, to think about how you can accelerate your career. This is where I spend my career, my time. I'm sitting here right now in Berlin. My team is based all over Germany, Stuttgart, Hanover, and Toronto. We're supported by a global team of AI researchers at Autodesk. Most people may not know this, but Autodesk is, obviously makes many different types of 3D design tools in architecture, engineering, and construction, media and entertainment, and design and manufacturing. Autodesk is also a world leader in push 3D AI. So all AI research related to understanding of 3D geometries. And those researchers spread across the world, and we work with research institutions, academia, and industry across industries. So just a little bit about me, my background. I'm a product engineer, design engineer, by aerospace and mechanical engineer by training. I spent about 13 years working in product engineering, the last 5 in AI. I worked in energy and engines and aerospace, robotics, now in AI tools. I love everything about the process of design engineering, product engineering. Super excited to be here at Autodesk and bringing it into the next generation of AI-assisted tools and design processes. Okay, so getting started into the meat of this presentation, intelligent, not smart. We're talking about AIs here. What are they particularly? They're math, not magic. This is supposed to be humor to AI people, but this slide is really just about giving you some context to what's really happening with AI and to use a baking analogy to teach you about how AIs work. So when you bake a cake, you have ingredients, you have a recipe, you mix those ingredients, you bake the cake, and then you adjust the recipe because maybe it doesn't taste too good. With respect to AI, ingredients are your input data, your text, your images, your videos, and you combine them systematically into rows and columns of a matrix representing relevant features in the data. And then you do that with respect to a recipe, right? That's sort of called a weight matrix, right? A mathematical recipe that defines how input features are combined to produce meaningful outputs. You then mix those ingredients together. And this is sort of the process of matrix multiplication, right? And basically what you're doing is you're multiplying the row of an input matrix, which is sort of representing your ingredients, with a column of a weight matrix that represents the recipe, and that gives you one component of the final result. And this process is repeated many, many times. Every time you click a button on an AI tool to make a prediction of some kind or generate an image, your baked cake, that's the output, right? The outputs are the process results. And you can think of training AIs as adjusting that recipe, adjusting that weight matrix to make the outputs, the cake, more accurate or to taste better. A little bit of a convoluted explanation, but I hope that gave. How did we get here? This is really sort of only in the top of mind. AI is in the top of mind of everybody since 2022 when ChatGPT came out. But this magic didn't really happen overnight. The concept of AI sort of established in the 50s in a 1956, where they thought they were going to solve the problem in the summer. The field sort of lingered until 2012. A researcher at U of T in Toronto published a paper on deep learning on CNNs that sort of took the industry and led to huge increases in investment and research in academia and industry. And that led to a pivotal paper from Google in 2017 on transformers, which we're going to talk about. And that led to ChatGPT and the world we're in right now. So we have this transformer paper on the right called Attention is All You Need. The core innovation in that was talking about that. And that led to this sort of fight for mega models, right? Billions of dollars invested, and all that money is going into Jensen Huang's pockets. So he's a very happy guy, owns the industry, you could say. But what is the key concepts here? What are the things you need to understand? 3 main concepts are attention, context windows, and embeddings, right? These are key ideas to understand all the breakthroughs that are happening in generative AI. The attention mechanism is, like I said, this key aspect from transformers. It helps AIs focus on the most important information and data, like a highlighter, right? Increasing context windows. This basically means that more and more information can be processed at once. This is the reason why tools are getting better. They can generate longer generations of code, of text, of video, whatever the application is doing, because of this increasing context window in the input. And embeddings. Embeddings sort of turn semantic relationships hidden in data into geometric process information more efficiently, find connected or related ideas faster. These are core mechanisms within what's happening. Just to double down on that context window concept, because it's very important, right? Many things are improving or contributing to the improvement of AI applications, more training data, cheaper scaled compute, algorithms, etc. But this content, right, the ability to increase the amount of data that an AI can integrate into a response has a huge impact on the quality of tools that are being built. Summarization of long text, code editing and large debugging of large files, advanced and nuanced conversation or extended sessions, etc., generating long videos. It's all based on this increasing context window and the ability to sort of remember prior interactions and maintain coherence in long conversations. Okay, what else is driving change, right? This concept of a growing intelligence gap, right? So let's just talk about the difference between intelligence and smartness. It's sort of semantics, but relevant in this context, right? Intelligence is sort of raw ability and cognitive power. It's very theoretical, abstract, sort of the capacity to learn and understand and reason. Smartness is sort of practical wisdom in action, right? Contextual application of knowledge, decisions made effectively in real world scenarios. And the core concept here is like AI is useless without the contextual understanding required to apply it. And that practical human context is what really defines us as designers. Important to keep in mind. So this slide is really to help us understand the relationship between terms and technologies, because there's a lot of terms out there and they sort of get combined in a confusing way. So artificial intelligence is sort of a catch-all term for systems with human-like intelligence. It's sort of a broad term. It encompasses robotics and computer vision. Machine learning is sort of just systems that learn, whether it be supervised or unsupervised or via reinforcement learning. Deep learning are systems that learn inspired by methods or biological processes, basically, like deep learning or neural networks. And generative AI is sort of just a catch-all term covering anything that generates from a prompt, right? Generative content from a prompt. And that sort of feeds into foundation models. Foundation models are generative systems that are trained on massive data sets from diverse tasks. And this is also enabled by a transformer architecture, which we just discussed about. And foundation models is really what's spurring the coming renaissance in product design and engineering. With respect to Autodesk approach, Autodesk has the approach to increase the hierarchy of generative value coming from foundation models. So starting off at the bottom, there are general foundation models that are sort of trained on the internet and have a generalized contextual understanding of the world based on text and images on the internet. Then you have spatial and physical reasoning models. These are specialized that that have a industry-specific understanding. Industry unique to Autodesk that have an understanding of physics, right? They have a ability to reason about the spatial and structural world in a way that obeys the laws of physics, and they create the illusion that they have an understanding of physics, but they're not connected to physical modeling or observation data, only images and text, right? The industry-specific models have an industry-specific understanding about how things are made or produced. For example, they may have an understanding about how a factory may manufacture a product or how a construction site might schedule a specific part of a job. And then last but not least is this notion of custom models, right? The pinnacle of the value, where we expect customers to be able to aggregate and align and customize AI models just as they're doing with language models today, based on their custom and company-specific data, workflows, and approaches. So another important thing about Autodesk's approach is the notion of creating responsible, ethical, and secure AI, right? So Autodesk has created a framework, principles, with which we are filtering all of the AI tools that we're building. This connects to the ways that we communicate to customers about what our AI models do. So this is an example of how we're thinking of doing that. It's called this AI transparency card. And the idea is that this helps customers make decisions about how they use these tools. You know, they explain what type of data we're using, what type of models we're using, how we're using data encryption, etc. so they can make informed choices going forward. Okay, so the next section is called Edges of the Map, right? So in this area, in this section, we're going to discuss several categories of AI research. We're going to discuss how each might impact common problems in automotive design. They're relatively general. Some are from Autodesk, some are not. It's not an exhaustive list, just a sample of research from across the industry, just to give you a notion of changes that are coming and give you a rough idea of what is going to be possible. So the first slide is talking about capturing design context, right? The fusion models, LLMs, and automation possibilities are changing pretty quick. This slide is sort of discussing a combination of these technologies with respect to capturing context, design context. So on the first, right, capturing spatial context, right? Technologies like neural radiance fields, Gaussian splatting, they're enabling designers to capture insights in pretty interesting new ways. You can capture objects, scenes, color, lighting, and create really high fidelity spatial records of inspiration or design references. The second in this bit here is sort of talking about how you capture knowledge context, right? Nearly all enterprise teams have some form of intranet or PLM system with a really rich history of captured design and domain knowledge specific to that organization. And you can use a technique called RAG, or Retrieval Augmented Generation, which couples with an LLM to allow users to chat and interact with company data, text, Excel files, pictures, video, multimodal information, and pull out contextual information and knowledge for your specific question. And this enables designers to sort of have access to their entire history of their company when asking questions. And then combining this with something called function calling. Function calling is a system that allows, it's a tool that allows AI systems to interact programmatically with other tools, services, or databases, right? This basically enables an AI to perform structured actions such as fetching data, running calculation, triggering processes based on inputs or contextual insights, right? So this basically is something that enables or ensures that AIs aren't just passive, but active participants in bridging context and action, right? The combination of these three techniques basically has the potential to dramatically shift how designers and design teams manage design reference information. It sort of turns Gaussian splatting on the left and RAG in the center into dynamic tools that don't just capture and retrieve information respectively, but can also lead to automation of design intent management tasks, sort of helping teams move faster and smarter through early stage design process. You can imagine like linking these type of RAG responses, so historical design context rationale, to specific elements in captured 3D reference models. You can sort of also use these tools to trigger a rendering engine to simulate how a car will look in multiple different types of captured environments, or convert a captured 3D idea into a CAD compatible format, for example. There's sort of infinite configurations about how you might apply that technology. Okay, so how else would you generate concepts quickly, right? The fidelity and realism of media generation AIs is really quickly approaching sort of realism or parity to media capture, let's say. And as this tech improves, basically all form of visual media are sort of becoming liquid, right? In terms of 3D generation, this type of AI is basically accelerating ideation by allowing you to create detailed models in seconds, not hours, with texture and extreme detail. You can generate multiple variations very quickly, integrate them into virtual environments. This particular area has exploded very rapidly in the last couple of years, the last year in particular, and next year will continue based on research. Video generation, as you see in the center, right, is really bringing concept to life, helping bring cars into more realistic settings, really enabling a stakeholder sort of design, experience designs dynamically without really having waiting for a physical prototype to put into the real world. And models for this are improving really quickly in terms of being view consistent or hi-fi or realistic. And then also on the right-hand side here are textures, right? So AI-driven texture tools that simulate materials with incredible realism, from paint finishes to interior fabrics. These types of things all combine to really help designers help designers align designs with manufacturing. And this really is pushing automotive design closer to reality while keeping it flexible and fast and creative in the early stages. Building off that technology, right? The idea of generating videos is exciting, but you want to be able to control those things. And there's a concept called motion prompting, which is not extremely new, but some of the research on this page is literally just from this week. So on the left here, you have this example of broad motion controls where you can highlight a character and define a trajectory vector and repeat that sort of iteratively until you get the video you want. The notion of controlling that in much more detail with motion prompting, you can see here above, where a user can dynamically create a motion prompt with the cursor and change a detail in a generated video, is really just something that comes from this week. So this includes, this again, not internally, this is public research, camera control, so defining functional camera angles. You can imagine having a dynamic pan that sort of follows a car's trajectory, or motion transfer. You can see here on the bottom corner where you sort of apply a real world motion pattern to your concept, like you could imagine driving behavior or like acceleration or braking or cornering on various terrains. And then also emergent physics, right? You can see here seeing sort of fluid media moving. And the outputs of this are becoming more and more impressive, right? The controls are becoming so realistic, it's almost unbelievable, to be honest. Okay, so then the next approach here is the concept of universal inspiration generators, right? We're approaching a point where everyday devices, will be able to capture and generate nearly any kind of data. For example, recent research from Apple sort of shows how you can enable a mobile device to capture, learn from, and regenerate text, images, audio, and more. So this would basically allow for software that can perform multiple types of tasks across many different data types. And this sort of points to unique design process capability in terms of inspiration. Like imagine turning a sketch into a detailed image, or generating music based on a virtual scene in real time on your way to work. There are many early stage inspiration workflows that could be modified using this tech. It's really just early days, but definitely exciting. In terms of generating geometry, as mentioned, Autodesk is a leader in Gen AI for 3D. This slide sort of discusses two outcomes of research we do, not our team, our different teams. Right on the left is Project Bernini. This is sort of an AI that generates meshes from multiple different types of inputs, from images, from scanned point clouds, from sketches, from geometric primitives of different kinds. And the idea is that you could generate meshes that sort of support quick ideation and visualization of concepts. For example, you could scan a clay model into a point cloud and derive the generation of a new editable mesh from that space. On the right, sort of more focused on our BREP generation, our boundary representation research. Lots of publications in this space from our teams, right? Basically, the notion is that we've trained AIs that can generate BREPs from scratch because they have an implicit understanding of how these geometries from sketches and extrusions and faces all coordinate together. This is a much more complicated thing than generating an AI that understands images or text, because obviously 3D models are made up of a variety of different curves and surfaces, each with their own sets of parameters and constraints. Our research team also explores how you can use these AIs that understand BREPs to automate different design tasks, not just generating geometry, but also, for example, automating assembly. So this research paper from our team called Joinable basically uses that BREP understanding to automate the assembly of components. Together, these two things sort of they sort of show you how you could bridge the gap between 3D conceptual creativity and production-ready 3D design, right? Mesh generation for rapid iteration, BREP generation for precision modeling. And both these things together are really going to push the boundaries of what's possible in design, in 3D design and engineering workflows. Okay, let's talk about personalization. Most personalization in AI tools right now is built off of the concept of reinforcement learning. Reinforcement learning basically allows users to give positive or negative feedback to the outputs of AIs, sort of guiding systems to better meet their preferences, right? It is a sort of a feedback loop that enables a model to learn potentially specific aesthetic, functional, performance-based criteria over time. For example, in automotive design, a team could reinforce an AI to prioritize aerodynamic forms or sustainably focused materials. Similarly, in creative industries, you could use this type of AI to generate outputs more consistent with the brand's visual identity, sort of ensuring seamless integration into their workflow. And you can sort of see that on the right here. Basically, you have a generator that modifies based on someone's use to refine the output to meet their sort of aesthetic sensibilities over time. Most of you have probably used ChatGPT. These positive or negative reactions sort of reinforce the function of that tool. Okay, surrogate modeling. Right, surrogate modeling is a really exciting domain for applying AI to design. It basically involves creating a simplified physics model that sort of approximates a complex system to reduce computational costs. Right, the benefit being that you can accelerate design feedback cycles between designers and analysts. So even teams with limited resources can use these type of AI models to run robust, accurate analyses. So like I said, it sort of involves creating a simplified model that approximates the behavior of a complex system to reduce computational costs. So for example, instead of running really resource intensive simulations for every design iteration, a surrogate model provides the opportunity for near instant feedback on performance metrics related, for example, to aerodynamics or structural integrity. Basically democratizing advanced simulation tools. It's also something that sort of bridges the divide between, or the traditional divide, let's say, between designers and engineering teams, sort of aligning creative exploration with performance-focused outcomes from early stages in design. Okay, another important concept is the concept of interpretability, right? Who knows why an AI comes up with a specific answer, right? This is sort of focusing on the ability to explain the reasoning behind an AI's outputs, right? This is sort of an evolving capability. You can see an example of this on the side where you ask a specific question and a sort of decision tree, or not a decision tree, but a reasoning tree with sub-questions and answers all combines to give a final result. This is especially critical in domains like design where the outputs must sort of align with nuanced project goals and dependencies. And this can become more and more relevant as these tools get better and better and get integrated into more and more design and engineering tasks. You can imagine also imagine an AI that is sort of like a tutor that tutors a designer through a complex dependency issue, or an AI that provides sort of like a step-by-step instructions for how to complete a specific or complex design task, or providing sort of like a well-reasoned step-by-step detail into sort of how a particular design decision impacts manufacturing feasibility is another example. The whole idea here is to sort of make an AI a true collaborator, not just a tool, sort of like a mentor. The next concept here is this idea of general purpose interfaces, right? Basically, AIs are now able to read and reason about what's on your computer screen. And in some ways, that's sort of a scary and intrusive idea, but in some ways, it could be extremely helpful, right? Um, so it could sort of recognize the applications that you're using, the relevant inputs, and the tasks you're performing, right? This also enables sort of screen understanding, enables tools to provide sort of personalized, real-time interactions tailored to very specific situations, right? You can sort of dynamically modify the UX UI based on a user's physical or mental or geographical context, right? This particular example is an interesting one, right? It's basically showing an iPhone that's adjusting to party mode and reconfiguring to highlight the most likely apps you're going to use if you've had a night out partying, right? You're going to Uber, you're going to call somebody. You can imagine in a corporate environment, right? This might mean integrating with data from your intranet or project management tools to sort of surface the most relevant work or the most relevant workflows. In a design tool, this might mean sort of personalizing suggestions like project-specific assets or aligning settings to preferred configurations or integrating with a CAD version control system, for example. Or you might change the interface at the early stage of the design versus engineering stage, where you have different features in your engineering tools or design tools that you might want to highlight. Basically, this capability is very exciting because it opens the potential to make interfaces more intuitive and more responsive and sort of aligned to what users need in the moment. Okay, the last one we're going to talk about is the concept of agents, of agentic workflows, right? This really introduces the concept of role-specific autonomous agents, right? Sort of working together as a collaborative team, right? An AI agent, one way to think about it is an AI that performs a sequence of predefined tasks autonomously, right? You show them once, they do it forever. They can sort of do anything an AI can do and some of what a human can do, right? They can search the web, they can generate content, they can call people on the phone, they can perform conversations. This is expanding every day, right? And teams of these agents can be programmed to complete different specialist tasks and collaborate with one another to get things done for you. In the example that I've shown here, a AI agent is searching the web to find the ideal vegetarian recipe for cheese lasagna, right? But the applications for this type of thing are effectively endless. Most of the applications you see about right now, or you learn about right now in research and otherwise, are mostly web-based functions, right? Sort of imagine a design researcher or a product marketer or a salesperson, a customer assistant that is never sleeping, right? This could evolve into local agents that work internal to your company that sort of manage huge amounts of logistical tasks in your design organization, right? Configuration management, GD&T checking, change order management, etc. Also could assist in design workflows, creative workflows, right? Imagine a designer that's sort of monitoring what a designer is working on, providing relative reference or process suggestions, or ensuring compliance to industry requirements all in real time, or creating updated research reports that are identifying white spaces in new markets that you're trying to address with designs. The point is that role-specific autonomous agents are the future of this type of technology, and will very likely be part of design processes. Okay, so that's a lot. What isn't changing, right? AI is definitely sort of the invention of a new form of objects, right? A lens to see design tasks in a different way. But at the end of the day, we still have to tell competitive stories to get our ideas across. We have to collaborate across the world in a state of constant changing industry. And we have to bend metal, right? At the end of the day, we're measured on fit and finish. Everything else is sort of noise. Um, So what can we do? What do we do with all this information? How can we change how we work effectively? The next few years are going to be very exciting. No one really knows what's going to happen. AI will definitely become more intelligent, also in some of the ways that I shared. And this will definitely change our industry. What we do? We need to focus on what we can control. We need to focus on what makes us human. So let's talk about how we can do that and how you can stay cool as a cucumber in spite of dangerous super intelligence, right? That's kind of a joke. But the main idea here is that AI puts a premium on a lot of things, specifically on attention and authenticity, right? Focusing more on what makes you human, what really deserves your attention, and how do you really show your unique authenticity in what you're doing every day. So I'm going to talk about first how designers can stay competitive in synthesis, right? The main concept here is that AI creates a filter premium, right? What I mean by that is your context, your aesthetic sensibility is your filter, right? Creative design quality is not just about what's generated, it's about what's left behind, right? The means, or what this means is that the challenge for designers is to define clear context boundaries, define a clear context boundary to the AI, and refine and iteratively iterate and filter the inputs and outputs that come in and out of these systems, right? So to evolve your design workflows, number one, build a contextual boundary around your ideas, right? Curate reference data to define clear, rich, actionable context for AI tools to process. Number two, think of prompts like a design brief for an AI, right? You need to be able to articulate constraints for your creative vision with precision, right? Number three, focus on communication. Refine AI outputs through iterative feedback, right? This is now a conversation. These habits, all these habits, these are things that will help you embrace the expanding boundaries of what AI can generate while staying true to your unique artistic interpretations. And this is a key point. In every technological transition, it's always the best communicators that win. And in design, this is the key point. You don't need to be the best. You need to be the best at communicating a potential solution to your specific problem. And your filter, your context boundary is how you do that. Okay, managers, right? Sequence tasks appropriately. So AI also puts a premium on talent management, on how you manage talent, right? What tasks should people stop doing? What tasks should machines be doing? What tasks should people be doing more of, right? So managers need to assess advancing capabilities in this field and consider the balance of human attention and machine attention within their teams, right? Human strengths, although great, are largely fixed. We're smart and we're great at nuanced and niche contexts. We have rich and deep models of the world run through tacit experience, but machine strengths are changing very quickly, and their increasing intelligence and ability to generate content, text, code, CAD, etc., means that design managers have to balance these two collaborative resources accordingly. And then the last one is IT leaders, right? IT leaders are going to become data orchestrators. It also puts a premium, right? AI puts this premium on how you manage data. IT professionals need to adapt to rapid technological advancements, particularly in the context of AI's transformative role in enterprise design teams. Why do I mean that? Or why do I say that? Designers want to own and control their AI. Everything else is like fishing with dynamite, right? IT managers have the responsibility and the opportunity to unlock hidden IP and new capabilities with teams. So that what are the points to consider here, right? Data asset management. AI relies on data, including underutilized data and historical data, right? So treating this data as a sacred resource can unlock untapped potential within your company. Then the concept of custom models. Training AIs on old data creates like a new type of intangible asset, a new type of IP, right? They can deliver significant value. especially when leveraging historical design context or analysis files like CFD. You can sort of think of them as I mentioned earlier, right? Compressed design energy, compressed creativity. It's like a new form of data storage. And the last point here is the evolving role of IT professionals. You're sort of a curator of this captured context. You're sort of ensuring the value of this legacy data and the AI models that is preserved, right? You're sort of an orchestrator of data and AIs, bridging the gap between what's technically possible now and the organizational goals of your company. Okay, that's a lot of talk. Just looking at the time here. How do you take action? Key ideas to remember. The increasing context window allows you to generate more ideas based on the context you provide. More context, better ideas. And the last one is stay human. Focus on your human superpowers. Key actions to remember. Your context is golden for designers. Your success depends on curation, capture, and communication of context. For managers, manage attention to the task and executor, balance human and machine attention. And for IT leadership, you hold a key to new IP, right? AI models are creative concentrate. Just some quotes to end it off here. Learning is a part of survival now, right? This is a quote from Edward Deming. He's a statistician and management consultant that helped Japan rebuild quality systems in manufacturing after the Second World War and transformed their manufacturing industry to become sort of a global leader in quality. We have a lot of challenges ahead in the automotive industry, and I believe that AI tools are sort of the next evolution of what this man pioneered in terms of improving quality excellence. Right? We can make we can make products. We can make better products. We can do it faster. What's Autodesk Compass moving forward? We're focused on augmenting workflows with three main tenets: controllable and functional 3D geometry generation, right? We want to accelerate the path to useful design geometries, adjustable and accurate visual environments, right? We want to make it really simple to create simple and seamless to create a lifelike and realistic environment to tell stories. And we want to automate data management workflows, right? Removing barriers to training custom models and doing analysis, etc. And we're exploring multiple ways of doing that and how we integrate that into the products. We have to figure out and to learn more about how we're doing that. You can act by signing up to join us at the Automotive Innovation Forum this spring. Should be 2 days dedicated to the future of automotive. Lots of inspiring keynotes from myself and the rest of our team, all covering interesting topics in design and manufacturing. Lots of opportunity for networking, and there'll be a party announcement soon. Maybe take a screenshot of this. This is just some high-level reading to give you some perspective on what's coming up. On the left, an essay from the CEO of Anthropic, very optimistic and exciting essay about where AI is going to bring humanity, or where it could, right? In the center, online essay from an interesting explorative design studio on how design interfaces, software interfaces could change, sort of that general purpose interface concept I was talking about. And then on the right, situation awareness. This is from a safety AI expert, or AI safety expert who used to work at OpenAI. Sort of maybe a little bit of a darker picture of the future, but very well reasoned and thoughtful, all interesting and useful. Last but not least, right, AI will be powerful, but it is not magic, as I said, right? We really need to focus on evaluating it rigorously, testing its outputs, proving its worth to our most creative and important work. It's really up to us, creative professionals, designers, engineers, to sort of ground this knowledge in true wisdom. And with that, I'll just say, stay critical, stay creative, and stay human. That's it from me. Any questions?
Yeah, good stuff, Timo. Really, really good stuff. We've got about 15 minutes or so for Q&A, so we'll just
Perfect.
jump straight into it, I think. Just another quick reminder, if you did want to put a question to Timo, just pop it into the Q&A box and we'll get to that now. I want to kick off with one that actually came to me towards the start of my presentation, Timo. It's a reference among many pop culture references from June. Fear is the mind killer.
Yes.
And I think fear was sort of a strong theme during the first part of the presentation. So could we just sort of double down on that a little bit? Should designers be scared of AI, do you think, or is it something that's in their control? And I suppose the real danger is not getting to grips with it.
I don't think designers should be afraid. As I said, what I really wanted to get across in this presentation, that the outcome of any design tool or design process is really subject to your context, your experience, your tacit experience. And I think it'll be a very long time before AIs can replace that. So I don't think designers should be afraid. I think they should double down on how they use these types of tools, just like any tool. But the point I was making in terms of emphasizing how you communicate your context to these machines. Right now, we have little prompt windows, and you can put a little bits of context into a generator. That's only going to expand. So that means that there's more opportunities for you to express your uniqueness and the uniqueness of your ideas and the uniqueness of your inspiration into these tools, and more opportunity to control them. So I don't think that there's anything to be afraid of with respect to design tools. I think I can't speak for other industries, but with respect to design, I don't think so.
Maybe just to build on that, another quote you said was accelerate your career and stay at the top of your game. Now, if we shouldn't be scared of AI as a designer, do we sort of look at it as something that's fun to play with, or is it something that is a bit more than that and it's genuinely useful as part of that toolkit?
Yeah, I mean, I think utility depends on the context, right? With respect to accelerate your career, what I mean is, I think it's sort of based on your belief system. You can change your perspective of what is feasible for you to accomplish in your career. Just in the context of programming or software development, the amount you can accomplish has changed so much in the last couple of weeks, even, right? Even with expert skills. So as that moves into, as the context window gets bigger and bigger, what you'll be able to accomplish with CAD tools will also increase. So yeah, I think it just means, when I think about accelerating your career, just think about expanding your belief of what your career can be, what you can actually accomplish, what you'll be able to express, what you'll be able to design. But I think we all exist in our careers with some limiting beliefs about what we can achieve, or what's feasible for us. And I think that these type of tools create the possibility for you to open that up a bit.
There's an interesting question that's come in here that I'll sort of tack on an additional question to of my own. Um, One of our listeners has asked, are you collaborating with design schools on how to embed AI into the curriculum? And if not, have you seen during your research any interesting applications of AI in a curriculum at say a top design school?
We joined Autodesk a year ago, my team, just over a year ago. Before that, we had worked with some design schools, and I've seen a lot of students exploring new ways of managing concepts, of creating new concepts, of learning, um, uh, like creating design briefs, things like that. I've seen a bunch of interesting examples, but I haven't worked with any school yet in terms of facilitating curriculums or things like that, but would love to.
I
And if
wonder if we
anyone on the
get
call,
the
I was just going to say,
sorry,
if anyone
Timo,
on the
carry on.
call has an idea about how to do that, I mean, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'd be curious to learn or have any ideas shared with me.
If we I was thinking if we get the crystal ball out and look a little bit further down the line, um, do you think that artificial intelligence, or AI is an acronym, do you think we're still going to be using that in 10 years' time? Is it going to be referred to in that way, or is it
No.
You know, we don't really say search engine these days. We say, you know, Google, for example.
Right.
Are we going to be using AI, or is it just going to be referred to as something else or by a noun?
I think it's going to be really individualized. I have friends already that have made custom GPTs that they have named after movie characters. I have a friend who named one Tar after this robot in a sci-fi movie. I forget the name of the movie, but I think it'll be individualized to teams, to companies, to people within in your own family. Everyone's going to have their own for different purposes. But I think it'll. I mean, there's already people discussing how different AIs can have rights and things like that. It gets very complicated in the next couple of years. That's why I shared some reference readings for everyone, specifically that paper, situational intelligence, or yeah, I think it's called situational intelligence. Um, sort of points to how strange things might get in terms of how we interact with these things and give them personhood, let's say.
And
Situational
I,
awareness, sorry, what's that?
yeah, one thing that interests me is artificial intelligence kind of has this ebb and flow. I mean, it's framed as something new, but in one way or another, it's kind of been around since the 60s or the 70s. I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong with those
Mhm.
dates, but during that time, we've sort of had these peaks of interest and these sort of almost like a hype curve, and that's where the term AI winter comes from. I wonder, Timo, do you think we've passed that tipping point and we're past the winter now? You know, beyond the sort of the AI ice age, it's less about hype now, and it's more about reality and finding practical uses of it rather than just sort of talking about it.
I mean, we're definitely in a period of hype right now. I think the I don't think it's going to go into a winter, however. I think it's just going to, the utility of these systems are only going to expand, right? As these tools get deeper and deeper and deeper ingrained into, especially in heavy industry or in manufacturing. Um, I think it's really just early days, and the hype will be justified.
Yeah, it will be interesting to watch, and I must say, since you said the note about the AI called Tar, the synapse has fired in my brain, but I can't quite remember the film, and it's really annoying me. So I'm gonna have to do some
Interstellar,
searching up.
okay. Interstellar, yeah,
Interstellar, that's it. There we
yeah.
go. Thank you. Um, uh, there's a question here that's come in. How far away do you think it will be until a 100% generated AI 3D model will be? I'm going to reframe this slightly. When do you think a car will be launched that is using AI exclusively in a way to produce it from scratch? So from ideation through to sketch, through to 3D model, through to full model, and then into production.
I wouldn't dream of putting a number on that, and I'll explain why. Most of the AIs that are being used to generate geometries, 3D geometries, I mentioned two, B-reps and meshes. Um, they have a rough understanding of those shapes, but if you've ever spent time building a complete assembly or modifying a sheet metal component or weldment or casting, you realize how much context how much thought and reasoning goes into creating all those components and managing an assembly and reiterating or modifying that assembly and analysis and testing. I think it's going to be a really, really long time before that all gets automated. And whether that's even feasible, I don't know. I think sub aspects of those things will be automated, right? Maybe you'll have a design that is released where all the configuration management or all the drawings were generated by an AI, or um, the entire PLM system is managed by an AI, for example. Like, I think that's much more feasible in the near term, And by near term, I mean in like 5 years to a decade, right? I think it's going to take a long time for this all to integrate. Because again, just because something works in research doesn't mean that it should get integrated into a product. And even if it could get integrated into a product, it might not help, right? So being very critical about how you put these things in product is important.
One thing I've noticed, Timo, is phrases like machine learning and deep learning seem to be dying off or not being used quite as frequently nowadays. I don't know if it's just me that's seeing that. Do you agree with that? And if so, why do you think that's happening?
I don't know why that's happening. I mean, that's why I included that slide in this discussion about trying to explain what the difference between these terms. I think it's sort of catchy to say Gen AI or foundation models. It's simpler to say and easier to understand, maybe. Um, there is a very rich history of development and research in sort of non-neural network systems, symbolic systems, etc. And again, it's a huge industry or huge domain of expertise and research. Um, and I think just right now it's something that everyone in every industry in every demographic can benefit from. So the Gen AI is just the most popular term, I think. Yeah. ChatGPT is sort of a household phrase at this point. It's sort of replacing Google. Googling something and ChatGPT something. So I think that's why.
Yeah, I guess similar to like Alexa or any of the other sort
That's
of
right.
AI
Yeah.
assistants, it just becomes its own noun, doesn't it? You don't really refer to that as you don't go into the kitchen and say, "Can you ask the AI to put a timer on?" Um,
Yeah. Exactly.
Now, there was a trio of ideas, I think, midway through your presentation. I wonder if just you could just quickly simplify this for us again, because it seemed quite
Mhm.
pertinent as a takeaway. So maybe we can end on that. Used three key ideas, which was attention, context window, and embedding. And I think this was a key idea within a subtopic of the presentation. But attention,
Yes.
context window, and embedding. Could you just give us a really quick sort of rundown on why we should be paying attention to that?
Yeah. Attention is really, like I said, it's like a highlighter on a page full of text, right? The reason that all these systems are improving so quickly is because of this concept being able to highlight the key information in the training data, in the reference data. Um, the context window, right, the expanding context window, it's like reading a whole stack of books at once instead of going one line at a time. Again, this is just one of the reasons, one of the mechanisms that's driving massive change in this industry. And the concept of embedding, it's sort of like coordinates to a mind map of semantic ideas, right? So when you're asking an AI question, you're giving it a prompt, it's searching in its map, in its mind map of ideas to find related ideas and give you an answer. So these are just three core ideas about how AI works and why it's improving so much.
We've still got a minute left, and I'm going to ask you, I assume it might be a bit of a weird or difficult question. I see lots of comments sort of all over the place, really, saying, oh, that car looks like it's designed by AI. What's your perspective on that? Is that an insult today? Do you see that as an insulting comment? And in future, do you think that'll be seen as an insulting comment? Or is it, will it get to the point where that's almost, a compliment in some way because you found some sort of novel use of AI that someone else hasn't? Um, I'm not quite sure I've worded that
I think I
question
know what you mean. I
in a
mean,
way that makes sense.
I think today it's definitely an insult.
Yeah.
One of the most interesting things about this job is how many automotive designers I get to talk to. I'm a design engineer, but that's very practical. And this automotive designers have to be practical too, but I would say they're much more aesthetically inclined and poetic than someone like me. So right now that's sort of an insult, right? It's sort of saying, that's not even human. That's like what a robot would create. I would like to think and hope that in the future, people would say, yeah, that looks like it was created by a centaur, like a person, like a chess centaur, someone who's really figured out how to use these tools in a great way and like come up with something that just works extremely well, that looks really good, um, and people love. And I think that that's why we're doing this. I hope that answers the question.
Okay. No, that did. Sorry, I was
Yeah,
fumbling for my microphone. If only I had AI that could have done that for me. Um, well, we've come up to the hour mark now, so that is all we've got time for. Just a very big thank you to everyone for joining and getting involved. Really enjoyed it. Thanks, of course,
great.
to
Thank you.
Timo as well and our partner Autodesk for running the webinar today. Now, just a quick word on what's coming up next year for CDN while we've got you before the Christmas break. Now, get your phone cameras out. There are some QR codes, so if you're quick enough, you might be able to scan through and register. Um, First up, we are in Milan during Design Week, as always. The same month, we're back in Shanghai. It's been about a 5-year break for us due to the pandemic, so very happy to be back there. And then our second outing in Detroit later on in the year. So if any of those tickle your fancy, do give that QR code a scan and register. Another big one for us as well is the People Awards. It's back again for 2025 in December, but we do have a new exciting venue, which you can see there. Speaking of which, it's the People Awards tomorrow, so I'm sure we'll see plenty of you in London tomorrow for that. Do keep an eye out on our socials for the winners, which we'll be announcing live if you can't make it. And as always, you can subscribe to CDN for full access to the site, our bespoke interior design magazine, and the annual yearbook, which you can see on the bottom right there. Car Design Review 11, believe it or not, has just hit the printers, and you can order that now. So, shameless plugs out of the way. Once again, thank you all for joining, and we'll see you again soon. Bye bye for now.